You guys can feel free if you'd like to come on camera and say hello. And if you don't like, that's okay too. Just want to say hello and welcome you into the room. We had a little bit of technical difficulties today, so this is going to be us here in the Zoom together, all of us, all 5 of us. And then we will bring it into social media later. But for now, hi. Hi, how are you, Dominique? Nice to see you. Oh, you're together. Oh, beautiful. Yay. Well, if you would like to give me Shandi's information, I would love to put her into the field, unless you would just like to listen. But I don't have your details, Shandi, so I would love to talk about you today.
Awesome. Yeah, I can tell. What do I need to tell you?
I need your birth date, birth location, and birth time. And the time is perfect. I'll get you in there.
You want to mute it?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
All right.
So Brandy,
Yes.
I'm gonna turn mine off because we're using her computer.
Okay.
So okay.
Perfect. It is the day of going with the flow.
Yes.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Awesome.
Hi, love. I would love to take a moment and just introduce myself and Richard and this series, what we are doing here in this free live conversation series. And what we're doing here in the Quantum Collective, and thank you for being here for the very first opening of this, for setting the precedence with me and with Richard and with the Quantum Collective. We are hoping to bring these live conversations twice a month. We will have a conversation about the mechanics of human design, and then Chelsea and I will have a conversation about the deconditioning process in human design and the humanness that comes into experimenting with this beautiful awareness tool. This sacred otter is my transcription service, so it's not just some stranger coming in to eavesdrop. So we are having these conversations twice a month in this group, this Quantum Collective group. What we're also offering are workshops, and these workshops are going to be more in depth. These workshops are going to offer a deeper layer to what you can find available online and in these social media groups. We're going to really dive into some of the deeper layers of human design in these workshops. Not only are we going to teach you human design through the Living Your Design course and the other courses that have been outlined, but we also endeavor to bring you embodiment experiments and experiences within these workshops. We endeavor to take this information from the mind and bring it into the body. And so this is our hope with these workshops. We're also going to have what we call just community meetups. So once a month, we're going to have a space in which you can come and log on and just talk about what has been happening in your human design experiment. In real life, what have you been encountering? What are the challenges and the successes? I know that when we come together and we share our successes, it fuels us all. And when we come together and share our challenges, then we're all greater able to handle our own challenges. So we're creating a space for that as well. So today, I wanted to introduce myself and Richard. We wanted to come on and have a conversation about what human design is and why we feel that it is the entry point or the tool to use to walk into your awakening or your awareness. And so, without further ado, I would like to introduce Richard Corbett. He is my partner in this endeavor. A 6'2" emotional manifesting generator with a beautiful history, and he brings a lot of wisdom to the table. So Richard, I'll let you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Brandy. It's so great to be here with you all. Thank you so much for putting this together. Well, let's see, myself, originally from Kentucky, but I live near Santa Fe, New Mexico now. And I met the human design system when I moved to New Mexico about 25 years ago. And so I was licensed as a professional 23 years ago, and I've been working with the system ever since then. And I teach at Human Design America, and I love working with newer people to human design. It's such a fascinating process to help people at this entry point to understand what it means to try the experiment, to begin to integrate the chart, to embody what it means for us. It's just a beautiful lens. And I call it a body consciousness awareness tool. It's a lens that we can recognize these energetic markers within ourselves and develop a felt sense of how they're operating inside of us. So it's just a pleasure to be here and to offer any support or insights that I can. I look forward to taking a look at these charts with you. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you are welcome. And some things, Richard is humble. And so some things that he didn't mention about himself is that he is also a teacher for the Human Design College, that he is a brilliant astrologer. He has been in the corporate sales training arena. He was an officer in the Marine Corps. He is an avid kayaker and very good at it, and a nature lover. These are some things. Yeah. Do you feel to take a look at your design and kind of introduce us through your design?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, good. Let me pull yours up. There we are.
Yeah, there I am, 6'2", emotional manifesting generator. I remember when I got my initial foundational reading, I was like a lot of people were. I was really blown away by the information that this new person in my life was able to share with me. But it also gave me a lot of questions. It really went against how I had been operating for my life up until that point. I was about 30 years old when I met Human Design, so I was right at my Saturn return. So it was very timely in that sense. I was going through a lot of transition. But I had always been brought up to believe that we make life happen, that we have dreams and desires, and we go out there and create them. Just do it. Kind of like the Nike shoe commercial logo. Just do it. And so I was always doing that, initiating, going after things, meeting plenty of resistance and all. But I'll never forget when he was explaining this emotional solar plexus definition to me, and how that was my inner authority, this nervous system that I could tune into in a new way to observe what I was becoming aware of, and how that required patience. And this idea of the generator's sacral response, that initiating, even though I have a channel, the channel 36 to 35, the channel of transitoriness, even though that's part of my natal design, the strength is actually coming from my generator sacral life force energy, and that this mechanism operated out of response. And so this whole idea of taking my time and waiting, and it was very confusing to me at first. It just, again, it kind of went against everything that I had thought previously. But I began the experiment, and it was just incredibly enlightening. Tuning into that emotional wave was just a really profound experience. I remember I started journaling to help track each day what I was feeling about certain things, and it very quickly became obvious how different it was from day to day. And I always share that with people now, that if they are emotionally defined, you can pick a topic or an event that's an ongoing thing in your life. And if you journal about it each day for a couple of weeks, and then go back and read what one has written, you'll see that our perspective becomes so dramatically different day to day, whether I'm in the high end or the low end. And so that was really as I look back all those years ago, that was one of the most profound things in that initial period, was to really observe how this internal chemistry was operating. And it radically shifted my perception of the world around me. And it's been doing that ever since. But to say a few things about my chart, I mean, the real bedrock of my chart is the channel 59 to 6, the channel of mating, design focused on reproduction. So I'll also nickname the channel of intimacy. But I say the bedrock of my chart because it not only defines my sacral life force energy center, it also defines my solar plexus emotional inner authority. So this is really the main frame from which the rest of the chart grows. So this idea through this channel of mating that I have this ability out of response to either bond and connect with someone or pull away. It's either it's happening or it's not. And of course, from that point, the solar plexus, which I often think of in this configuration whenever we have both the sacral and the solar plexus is sort of like a governor on the engine of the sacral center. In other words, my sacrals moment to moment, all defined sacrals have this response mechanism in the moment. These are the rising up of energy or verbally to say, or feel a movement forward or just not, I'm kind of leaning back in my chair. I'm not feeling a rise in energy. But yet there's also the two-part process, because if it's a decision, then I need to give myself time. So they're working in cahoots together, if you will. And so that can take a little time to develop that felt sense of that energetic interaction between these two centers. But it becomes more natural over time. And gosh, after this many years, it just is, it's just what happens. I'm out in public and there's either bonding with someone. And if there's going to be a bond, there's going to be an experience, right? It goes from the solar plexus from 36 to 35, the channel of transitoriness. And when I make these bonds, I'm generally going to have a new experience with them and hopefully gain some wisdom and maturity and have something to share with others.
Mm.
And the 6-2, that was always another big revelation to me. And when we talk about line sixes in the profile and how we are sort of the archetypal role model of the tripartite life, in the sense that, there's the first 30 years to the Saturn return with lots of experience. And I certainly had that going on too. I had so many things happen. I felt by 30, I'd already lived a lifetime. I mean, just every facet of life had tremendous change and experience. And then for those next 20 years, after I met the human design, but that idea of going on the roof, so to speak, from 30 to age 50 around the Chiron return, gaining perspective on all that experience, developing into the objective observer. And then at the Chiron return, the idea for line 6 of coming off the roof, re-engaging in life as a role model and a trusted advisor. And I just had my Chiron return a couple of years ago. So I'm still just really, I think, finishing that transition. And it's been quite extraordinary. And it's certainly been a shift in my body. I would say that with line 6, because we're moving towards integrity, line 6, it's called determination of the higher self. It's very involved with the solar plexus. It's in the sensing circuitry. And to me, it really speaks to this idea of being present in spite of the emotional ups and downs and chaos of the world we live in. And because it's going for this integrity, there's also this sense of hypocrisy, right? The polarity of everything, the yin and the yang. And so truth is sort of the opposite of the untruth. And so I would say for my development, it was really no more BS, no more white lies, no more staying under the radar, just living authentically. And so line 6s, when anyone that has a line 6 in their profile, this is part of the story, yet we're really just an archetype. I mean, all humans, we go through this life of development and growth and maturity, and these planetary returns provide a lot of support and information about that. They're like signposts in our journey in life of self-discovery. And that's what really led me to astrology too. I love astrology. I started studying it earnestly about 10 years ago, and I've been incorporating that into my human design readings. But I love looking at the astrology chart because when we look at aspects and the harmonies, we're really looking at a vibrational quality. I really think when I look at a chart in astrology, I'm looking at a song, right? The song that we're here to sing. Mm. And then I like to take that into the body graph, because here we have the body, we have the vehicle that we incarnate into. So bringing in that music is kind of like our favorite song on the radio while we're sitting in our vehicle, and particularly helpful when we look at these transits, like I was just sharing with my Chiron return. Now, in my chart, one last thing I could share about it is a split definition. And I do have this channel down on the bottom left, the channel of judgment, design of insatiability, part of our logical circuitry. It's this ability to instinctively recognize patterns of improvement, generally associated with health and sustainability, but looking at these logical patterns and being critical about how they can be improved. And I would say that this channel also was one of my first foot forwards prior to human design. I was, I have Mercury in gate 18, and, communicating what people need to change was something I thought they needed to hear. Yet through learning my strategy of response and waiting for emotional clarity over time, I was able to see how this channel works so much better when it's in the back seat, if you will. It's not my best foot forward, right? But when it's invited, if my aura attracts people, as the sacral generator aura always does, we're always bringing people towards us through our aura, and I'm invited to share these corrections, I can be quite helpful and give a very in-depth solution to what might make everything work better. But that was really helpful too when I learned my design.
Thank you.
Yeah. What
Uh,
else? What else are you seeing there, Brandy?
it's so beautiful the way that you know yourself. And, I know, Shonda, you're new, and a lot of this might sound like a foreign language, but I want you to know that what you just heard is a man that knows himself inside and out. And so this language that he has learned has helped him move through the world in alignment, feeling peace and satisfaction in a better way than he did when he moved through the world with his mind. So hearing that, I hope that's the frequency that you picked up. Richard, there's some more here that I would love to hear about your experience with your open centers.
Yeah, that would certainly be the next place to go.
Yeah.
So, to look at this chart and see that there's only one open center from the throat down, right? So, wow, that open ego there again. In those early years, that was all me. This gate 21, called the gate of control, using my willpower to change things externally. Boy, did I get wrapped around that. The challenges I presented myself through, again, initiating, pushing. The ego center is about resources. And so I was just completely chasing resources, financial and otherwise, but accumulation and self-worth. And these were things that I think people always in those days looked at me as a confident person. I mean, I was in the Marine Corps and Special Forces and fearless in that sense. But underneath all that, for me personally, there was great confidence challenges. This idea of, we say, with an open ego, are we trying to prove ourselves? And I can absolutely say I was. I mean, I was constantly trying to prove that I was worthy and strong and competent, and I could take control of any situation. And I got the feedback from the universe that often was, again, not my best foot forward. So with this information presented to me and this idea that that's not my responsibility, that I can be wise about other people that have defined egos. Who are the good leaders? Who knows how to manage resources? I have the potential to recognize that in others and join along with them if it's out of correct response and clarity from my authority. But yeah, that open ego, I have a whole book worth of challenges that I had to experience to really appreciate the benefits of my open centers. Sometimes out there in the world wide web of the internet, open centers kind of get a bad rap, as they're always going to be filled with conditioning and problems and this and that. But what I've come to learn about open centers, they have just as much agency for our lives as our definition. In fact, it's through our open centers that we learn to access our definition. And so this is part of the journey of this experimenting.
Yeah.
Now for the open-headed nausea, same thing, just never being able to be certain about things, wanting to be. There's this urge that I really want to know, but it just would be like a hamster on a wheel. Gate 47, the gate of realizing, is that mental activity where at night I would just have sleepless nights going over and over and over and trying to make sense of everything and really feeling like that was the point. And it was such a relief, such a burden lifted from me to understand that that's not really what my life is about, right? Our minds have wonderful outer authority for other people who come and ask for our mental gifts. But when I'm trying to use my mind to run my life, it was kind of a wreck. It just was very confusing and very hard to understand.
Yeah.
But again, with this time and experiment, being able to just appreciate whatever comes to my mind, to participate in conversations of all different types. I do have a very open mind. I'm very flexible in how I think, what I think about, depends on who I'm with. And I enjoy those interactions now. But I know that I've always got this chemistry inside me to guide me. And that too, was really hard making this transition to appreciate that. I didn't like the low end, I mean, I think anybody at first, when we come to this information, again, the low end is something we try to avoid as emotionally defined people. I always felt like whatever I was feeling was happening because of something externally. So if I went out and changed something, I'm going to feel better. If the boss made me mad, if I quit this job, I'll get a better job, I'll be happier, and so forth. And to realize this shift that regardless of what's happening in my external environment, that's happening, it's reality. But the way I feel about it is internal. And the way I share this with folks now is that if you, again, pick something that happens today, if I'm in the low end, could really throw me off track. Something like somebody if you're in the low end and someone cuts you off on the road, right? Oh, I'm in a hurry. How dare they? They almost caused an accident. But then again, tomorrow, I could be in a high end. Someone cuts me off on the road. I'm like, oh, no problem. Come on in. And so these little things like this just really help me realize that it's all about what's happening in here. And that was a tremendous relief, as well as very supportive. So now when I move through my wave, I've learned to love my wave. Like even the low end, they can be sad, and there's it's not always the most comfortable, but this idea of accepting and appreciating. And I've learned that the low end actually has much more answers that I'm seeking than my high end, right? So the low end, being present and appreciating and letting myself feel the low end, to stay with it, not try to run away from it, not yearn for the past or long for the future, but being present. And this is a lot of what Gate 46 is about as well. As I mentioned, it is one of the two sensing circuitry gates out of the higher self center. So it's very important in its relationship to the solar plexus, being determined to stay present throughout the wave. And again, that brought me not only relief and support, but the gifts that my low end offer. And I always find for emotionally defined people, this is the first step, becoming in tune to get out of the mind and feel the body. This is related to the nervous system. So if I'm anxious inside, if I feel tight, if my breath is shallow, any physical things that are uncomfortable in me, just is simply an indicator now, rather than kind of panicking like, oh, I've got to go do something to feel better. I just stay with it. And it's an indicator just to be patient, that right now is not the time. I can let my friends or whoever know, let's talk about this tomorrow. Today's not the day. And what a profound shift that has in the vibrational quality that I'm giving out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's living our truth, right? And if we're living our truth, we're giving off truth. So even though people may have expectations of me that I don't think I can fulfill based on that low end, I'm giving off truth. And so they're getting my truth. And that's again, that dynamic shift of energy makes all the difference.
It does. Wow. What a beautiful description of the emotional wave. And, I find myself as a undefined solar plexus human, feeling that tool. I use that tool in the same way, not to being hijacked by the emotions that are in my body, but just watching them, the highs and the lows, and really listening to what they're saying. And this is how I've become wise in that center. So I really appreciate your free sharing about your design. And I love hearing about, I think a lot of us, we all do, right, live from our open centers or our undefined centers until we come across something that allows us to get in touch with our authentic expression and fall in love with it again. And I loved hearing you talk about the experience of being a man in the world, of having to go out and just do things and prove yourself and know what you're doing and make this plan. And I really appreciated hearing you talk about how you let that go and you just fell into the feminineness of your body to be able to listen to what is right for you. And that when you did that, what you experienced was a frequency of truth that other people got to receive from you that felt like belonging, even if it was up or down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the open centers, they're so energetically interesting for us, right? They're constantly changing. They're unpredictable, unreliable in that sense, but very exciting, right?
Yeah.
Because there's something new coming in. Yeah, learning to really love and appreciate our openness is really important.
Yes, for sure. And I wanted just Shandi to know that Richard, and I'm going to talk about my chart now for a moment, but Shandi, I wanted to pull up your chart so that you were aware that you too are a 6-2. So this tripartite life, this 3-part life that Richard was talking about is yours as well. This first 30 years of trial and error and, bumping into everything that doesn't work, trying to be the fullest expression of yourself, and then kind of hermiting and moving into more of a introverted space for about 20 years until and healing and moving through the spiral of healing to learn how to come back into the world and bring that authentic expression while remaining sovereign in yourself. And you too are emotionally defined like Richard is. Dom, Katharina, and I are not emotionally defined. So when you heard Richard talking about his emotional wave and really getting in touch with his body and not making choices from the mind about how to get rid of those emotional expressions, but really just watching them, listening to them as the guide that they are, so that you can hear what they're saying to you and your truth with a capital T. But that takes time. And so I just wanted to connect you to your chart so that you can hear the familiarities when we're all talking about our own.
And while we've got it here real quick, Brandy, just to say that the way this is defined in Shandi's chart, the solar plexus, through the channel of recognition, it's unconscious. So this can be a little different process in the sense that not really mental access in any moment to what that emotional chemistry may be, but it's through any interaction. It's kind of like if you get up in the morning, one day you might stub your toe on the way to the bathroom and you're like, that was silly. Why did I do that? No big deal. Next day, same thing could happen and it totally wrecks your day, right? Makes you be late. You get all upset about it. I just want to say that the way to tune in each morning is just to observe how you feel about what's happening. It's kind of like if you go to make coffee and the coffee maker's broken, does that really upset you? Well, then this could be a low-end day. But just to getting that feedback through interaction, this unconscious emotional chemistry will present itself, which is, again, very helpful. As emotionally defined beings, we're exuding this everywhere we go. And we know that statistically, half of the population out there has an open solar plexus. So we're giving off this emotional chemistry wherever we are in our wave. And that's really important. I consider it a real responsibility for us emotionally defined people as we go out in public. We need to have emotional awareness, not only for ourselves and the decisions we may need to make each day, but to be mindful of the other and what we're bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm.
In a low-end day, if I've got a meeting or something important that I can't get out of and I got to go, I just go in much softer, much more careful with my voice. I can be a little more cutting in the low end. I can be abrupt, to put it nicely. And so just being aware of that allows me, again, to bring a different vibrational quality. I'm going to take a softer approach. I'm not at the top of my game. That's okay. It's going to change by tonight or tomorrow. But this extra awareness is really supportive for my process and to the people that I'm going to be interacting with each day.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Richard. Beautiful. So there's Richard Corbett, everyone. And a bit of a piece of his knowledge. And so we're going to keep going. I want to introduce myself a little bit, and then I want to get into some of these charts and kind of go over some of the very beginning steps in how to start experimenting. And so let me get into introducing myself. Here's my chart, a 6-2 manifester. And as with Richard talked about his entire chart starting at his motor and his authority center. My motor and authority are here. Excuse me, between my ego center and my spleen. I am a splenic manifester. My truth is only in the now. My authority works through the awareness system of my body, through my immune system, through my lymphatic system. You know, my authority is not necessarily an emotional authority. It is an authority that speaks to my body about my survival and my health in the moment. I kind of joke sometimes about a splenic authority, and I say, you know, the emotional authority, you get some clarity. The splenic authority has no clarity. It just jumps for health and safety right now. And so there's no clarity. There's no awareness really, other than the in the moment primal survival of our meat suits, of our vehicle. And so this is fueled in my design by my ego. And the ego being the only motor, it's a fun combination. The way that this works is that when my intuition is aware and has this splenic hit and I'm moving, the willpower then, as long as there's a payoff, there's something that I've noticed here is that my willpower kicks in the splenic intuition, and I'm able to move mountains as long as there is a reciprocation, as long as there is something in exchange. And this is something that I like to talk about with the defined ego at the very beginning, because this is something that some of us don't talk about, because we might feel that there is some conditioning that says that it's bad, wrong, or shameful to move with exchange. And that exchange can look like, for me, a healthy conversation. It could look like exchange could be a smile. And so my movements are usually predicated by exchange. Why do I say that? I say that because as a manifester with projected channels, I am here to initiate, and I will initiate movement and guide through my 731 and my 1333 through invitation only. And when that's exchange for me, that recognition and that invitation for me to prove, and then I show up and I prove whatever it is that you're asking for impact within. And so this is the way my design kind of moves around itself. There's a lot more to say here. I don't want to take a whole lot of time on that, but I do want to move into my split, like Richard kind of talked about. I want to move into showing how in my design, my split plays a huge role for me in my experiment. Once I learned how to listen, be the watcher, not be this brilliant mind of mine can find patterns and bring concepts and initiations into the world through my mind, through thinking that I know that this is the right thing that people need. What I have found is when I fall back into my body and I let my mind take second seat, I fall into my body and I let my body's lymphatic system and awareness system give me the indications of what is right and what is not right. And I show up into the places and spaces that my body sends me to. Then my outer authority, this brilliant mind, is able to show up and see what is needed in those spaces. I found in my experiment that I would go to places and spaces my mind thought I should be, and I would give all of my brilliance, and nobody liked it. Everybody thought it was too much. Nobody really asked me for it. And so I found that was always, when that happened, it was the places that my mind sent me to. It was the places in which I saw the patterns And I really, with my altruistic heart, thought that I could bring a relief of suffering into these places and spaces. And so I did this with full gusto, with this fully defined ego, and nobody asked me for it, and nobody wanted it. And so learning this created a lot of resistance for me. And in my first 30 years, this was my resistance. And it turned me angry and a little bit bitter. Like, fine, everybody wants to fucking suffer. Fine. And this was what brought me to the root, all disgruntled and a little angry. But this is what fueled my becoming into learning how to share and say what it is that I see. This fueled my becoming to realize that the things that I see and the things that I have to say are only designed to be heard by the people who have the frequency to receive it. And those people will inform me and recognize me and invite me into that guidance. Before I met human design, my body was in entropy. I was dying from lupus. Lupus was deteriorating my joints and my brainstem. I was losing cognition. I was eating with an EpiPen and a fork. I had 186 allergies. My body, I was moving it into the places and spaces with my mind with such willpower and gusto that I was destroying it from the inside out. And what I found was that when I followed my body into the places and spaces that are for me, my epigenetic structure, the health of my body completely changed. I have been able to take 186 allergies to 2. Lupus is now from 1 in every 250 cells in my body into 1 in every 5,500 cells in my body. I am no longer in a profession in which I show up and I do the job every day so that I could have the weekends off and I could take my 15 days vacation a year. I no longer play that game. My body sends me into the places and spaces where my purpose exists, where my abundance exists. Just like the trees that live outside, they have never once held a sign that said we'll work for food. This design showed me how to be a tree, how to just exist and get everything that I need. And so like Richard was talking about, through my open centers is where I lived. I lived by feeling people's emotions and their life force energy and what they needed and running around like a maniac to meet those needs so that they could love me. That was my first part of my life. And these last 7 years of deconditioning, it has really been about focusing on taking out of those open centers every belief that I shoved in there that said that people would love me if I just be this way. And that people would hear me and that people would receive me and people would see the love that I see if I just acted some kind of different way. And so these 7 years have been about deconditioning, have been about meeting those belief systems every single time they come up and reminding myself, nah, I am this. And my body knows exactly the places and spaces that I am to be in which the people live that get to hear why I'm here and get to serve with me, next to me, for me. I get to serve them, they serve me. This is what this design does. And I still get hijacked in the solar plexus. I still feel the emotions of the emotionally defined people and wonder, did I do something wrong? Is there something that maybe I could do better to make you feel better? And it's not about that. It's about being in the experience of the emotion with the other and regulating my nervous system to be able to sit with Richard when he's in the low of his wave and to experience the beauty of the low of that wave without me having to do something to feel better or to make him change or be different. These past 7 years in this open solar plexus have been about learning when enough is enough, learning that I am not the fucking worker. That I am the observer of life force energy and the impactor upon it, that it is not for me to do all of the work all of the time. And that in itself is what I believe healed my body. Because using this life force energy in these open centers, we amplify the energy that is around us. So I raised generator children and I was married to a generator man. And so amplifying this energy, I would take their energy in and just be bigger and grander and more energetic than they would be. And that is not the way this biology is designed. So that made this biology pretty sick. But now learning how to sit and be still and know that my worth is not tied up in how much I do every day. And that my worth is not tied up in how good you feel around me. These are this open center deconditioning. I am here in this open root center to be wise about time and not be pressured by it, not run around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to get everything done so that I could feel rest. It's not about that for me. But as a mother of 4 children, I sure as shit thought that was for me. I had a list and nobody rested until those dishes were done. And I learned that's not the way for me.
Brandy, that is an incredible story of transformation. Your health transformation is extraordinary and just speaks so well to the power of this shift.
Yeah. And the power that's available to everyone when they, I believe, align with the biology. Now, sometimes people think that this is a prescriptive science, right? It's putting you into some box or some category. And what I want to bring into this enlightenment into human design is that it's not a box at all. It's actually the alignment of your biology. And once we get into alignment with the way our biology is supposed to be working, then we get to experience much more than that. And so thank you for recognizing that. And aligning with this biology brought my body back into health so that I could realize and experience the purpose of the biology.
And I think that speaks a lot to our topic of this experiment, this idea of deconditioning, that we are free people in a free world, independent, right? So it's not about boxing us in, the human design system. It's not about telling us who we could or should be. We already are who we are. We already are these charts. It's just which part of the chart are we in, basically.
Yeah, you're never not who you are. It's just how do you perceive it?
It's just a shift in alignment. And in that sense, it's very easy. Now, where it gets difficult is through life experiences, because we have already developed adaptive strategies and things that aren't, we've, again, as you were sharing, we dealt with things in a certain way that aren't healthy for us. But this shift of deconditioning, in the mechanical level, it's actually quite simple. But it's through going through, as we engage with life, we're presented challenges where it does get a little bit difficult because we have our natural default previously.
Yeah, simple, not easy. Simple, but not easy. And so what makes it not easy, like you said, is these human experiences and our belief systems that we have wrapped up around all of that. The conditioning that we brought from our parents and our lineage, the conditioning we picked up from the propaganda and the media and the people that we love around us. And so I want to introduce everyone that is listening to the idea that just to expand your perception, to imagine the possibility that we all can be exactly individuated, all we are, and find peace and love and connection and bonding. A lot of times I hear people come and they say, but, my family is not going to like this about me. And so what I want to offer in the perception, the expansion of these charts, when we are finding our alignment back into who we are, we run into all of the reasons we stopped being who we are. And so we get to address each of those reasons one at a time and see that when we follow our body into those places and spaces and have courage and bravery to put aside our conditioning and experiment just to see, what if we did this? We will always see in 7 years, I have always seen people fall into a greater sense of self when they experimented with it, when they had the bravery to say, I know that this is something that you have lived with your whole life. This is a belief that you have. But let's just put it aside and see what it feels like not to. And so that is this experiment. It's not religion. It's not dogma. Like Ross says, please don't believe anything that I say. Nothing. Don't believe one word, but go out there and experiment with it for yourself and within yourself.
Yeah, it's truly body work. I mean,
Yeah.
we originally, when we start learning anything new, we're very much in our mind. We're very much in our ajna, our conceptualizing and comparing it to past knowledge, past experience, what might it look like in the future. The mind is here to protect us. It's here to keep us alive. But the thing with this information is the sooner we can push it into our body, to our inner resources, this is the work. This is why it's a body evolution, not a mental. The only mental evolution is trying to keep it out of our way initially, right?
Yeah. I mean, our neurology has been programmed like a computer since we were children. In the first 7 years, we lay down almost all of the neurology that we are going to use to work with for the rest of our lives. And so this brain is just a beautiful computer. And this science has you revisit all of those programs, all of those files that you put in there for the first 7 years. All it does is revisit all of those and rewire them to be a more true belief. Because those first 7 years, it was your parents and your caregivers' beliefs that were programmed. So this science is like some therapeutic models that I've taken part in, and hypnotherapy and ayahuasca even. This is the same process of revisiting what the density that is no longer true in your body and just realigning you with what is.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, just rewiring neurology and getting our mind on board. So that's something that the science, always teeters back and forth. You'll hear people say, understand the knowledge and get source knowledge. And then you'll hear people say it's not about the knowledge, it's about in your body, but it's about both. And this is the very first lesson of human design, is to be able to hold paradox, is to be able to hold the juxtaposition of everything being true at one time. Being true that our brains do need something to chew on. They are neurological machines that are always being programmed. And we get to shut them off once we give them a program and feel the truth of that program in our body, and then turn them back on, and then shut them off, and then turn them back on. And it's the yin yang, it's the divine marriage inside of the masculine and the feminine that we get to play with. And this science also, I know that was not the purpose of this science, but it is something that I see blaringly obvious, that it helps the marriage between left and right, or feminine and masculine in each of our bodies when we do it right. Yeah. Okay, so we are doing really good on time. I wanted to offer you guys just a little story about the human design aura types. And I am going to pull up something here. Pardon my delay. So maybe, Richard, you could start talking while I pull up the image about the different aura types. So what we're going to do now is just kind of tell a little story about aura type, the manifester, the generator, the projector, the reflector, the manifesting generator. I have a little story that I tell, and Richard has a very logical way of explaining these different aura types and why they're important. We're not going to go into detail yet. We will in our workshop. But what we're going to do is kind of give you an overview of what each of these aura types is here for. What is the costume? What is the purpose of being a manifester? Obviously, there's so many characteristics. I think 56,812 different mechanics in the body graph. So there's so many different layers, but there are overall costumes that each of us wear. And so I think we were going to take a moment just to talk about that. And then we were going to move into each of the charts. there are 12 people that have asked for mini chart readings. So we're going to do a few today, and then we're going to do a few in our next call on the 21st. So we're just going to keep rolling with these mini chart readings. And whoever is watching, we will let you know when I would love for you to watch all of these, but we will let you know specifically when your reading is being done.
I have a question.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
Thanks, Brandy. I think last time I was with you in prompt, you had said that I was because on my paper it just says type specialist, but I
Mhm.
think in prompt you said I was a manifestor generator.
Yes,
So
ma'am,
I
you are.
know, so when you talk, thank
Yep,
you.
you are a manifesting generator.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, girl.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So this is just a visual so that there is a visual while we are talking.
Yeah, do you want to, I'd like you to share your
Oh, you want me to share my story?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I missed that a little bit. All right, are we back?
Who's that? Are you talking to Dominique?
I
Yeah,
am
yeah.
paused, so I didn't hear anything anybody said. There you
Oh,
go. What were you
I
saying?
was inviting you if you'd like to share your story about the types.
Oh, okay. Yes, of course. All right. Well, I tell a little story about how these types would work in an apocalypse. Dom, you've heard this little story before. And it's just a silly little story about these aura types and the way that the collection of electromagnetic fields, which is our aura, moves about in the world. Now, keep in mind, there are many, many different mechanics that point to purpose and activity in the space. But this is just a little story that's kind of gives you an idea. So let's pretend that there is an apocalypse outside. And we are all in here. There's all of us. There's the manifestors and the generators and the manifesting generators and the projectors and the reflectors. And everybody's standing here. And we're all not exactly sure what we're going to do. But we know that we cannot go out that door, but we got to go out that door. But there's no door there. It's the wall. So what are we going to do? How are we going to get out of this space? Well, the manifestors in the group, with their dense and repelling aura, are going to take action. They are going to impact according to their design. Now, if they are a manifestor that has the different manifesting channels, it could be a manifestor that wants to punch the hole in the wall for the experience of punching the hole. It could be the manifestor that wants to punch the hole in the wall because they know that they're going to bring their tribe to the other side. And there's another one that wants to punch the hole in the wall because they want to see what kind of music it makes, or what the actual expression of that is. So a manifestor is just going to move and initiate and punch the hole in the wall. A manifestor who has been trained in their human design is going to inform before they walk over that wall. They're just going to say, hey guys, I'm going to go punch this wall. And it's going to punch a hole in the wall. And the manifestor is going to think that the manifestor has done their job. They're proud. They've done their thing. That is it. That's all they wanted to do. There's bricks on the ground. There's a hole in the wall. And they have gone and taken a nap. That's pretty much the way that a manifestor works. A manifestor is here. Their collection of electromagnetic fields is here to come into the space and impact it in one kind of way. Impact is always movement in one way or another. It moves the electromagnetic fields of the environment. So let's say now the hole's in the wall and the manifestor's asleep in the other room. And the projectors and the generators and the reflectors are all standing there like, oh my gosh, okay, there's a hole in the wall. The projectors have their clipboard and they're like, wow, what a Brutus. We need steps. We need a banner that says, welcome to the new world. I know a great musician that could be over there inviting everybody. Oh my gosh, the food that they made at that last place last week, I'm going to have that chef come and cook food for everybody. I know the people that have the best paint and the best bricklayers and the best. So in their mind, they're probably not saying anything, right, Shandi? They're probably not saying anything, but you know the engineering of the plan, you're having a feeling or a movement based on your design about what this plan should be, how we could all get through this Brutus hole that these manifestors just poked in the wall, right? But you're sitting there waiting because really no one has invited you or recognized you, and you're not really sure that anybody really wants you to do that. And so you've got this whole plan and you're just sitting there just like bursting at the seams waiting to be heard, yeah? Well, the manifestor, oh, I messed up. Before the manifestor went to bed, walked by the projector, went to that party that the projector was talking about, that food from last week. Manifestor was at that party too. Manifestor said to projector, hey, you put it together that party last week, right? That was a great job. You want to figure this out for me? You want to, and recognize and invites based on the design. I'm being very bland and blanketed here, but really this is the way that mechanic works. The projector gets to get invited, recognized, and invited, recognized and invited in a special artisan way. This isn't like any old invitation. Projectors aren't at the Walmart that you go and you pick out the, projector off the shelf. No, this isn't artisan. This is, oh, I need the projector that makes the best bread. So I'm not going to go to Walmart and buy just any old Sara Lee bread. I'm going to go to the artisan that makes the bread, right? These are projectors. And I'm going to come to you and I'm going to recognize you for your bread making skills. And I'm going to ask you to bring that bread to the party, right? This is the way that a projector gets recognized and invited. And I recognized and invited you. And now in your body, you feel lit up by this invitation. And you are able to now, you turn around and recognize all these generators. The generators are standing there like this. Just wait, just ready, just waiting to respond. All this energy in their body, they're ready, right, Dom? This is what you do all the time. You're just standing in the back doing this. Just waiting, right? Waiting to respond, waiting to use your energy, waiting for when your energy is lit up and in your body to move it and to use it in a way according to your design that serves your purpose, but it is building something. It is taking your energy and using it to work, to build, to pouring your energy into something that you're building. If you have the energy, if there is energy in you. If there is not, that is not for you to do. That's not your work to do. So let's say there's generators and they're all standing there and this projector has her clipboard and she goes and says, hey, you, and invites all of the generators. Hey, generator, would you like to do this? And the generator, And the projector has this skill of being able to like hone the generator's energy. So the generator's full of energy, right? The generator only knows themselves through response, through responding. Right? So there's all of this energy in the body, and the projector is able to feel that energy in the body of the reflector and tune it kind of like a radio station through asking questions. So like, Shandi, when the radio station is like, right? And you just move it like 3 other clicks to the right, and then it's right, you're able to feel this in people, in generators. And so when you are recognized and invited to guide, you ask questions. You don't tell her, no, that's not right, do it this way. You ask her questions to get her, to get her energy to move in the direction that is correct for her. And this isn't, Shandi, that something that This isn't like you are trying to make her do something or be better. This is what you feel in your body, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were just talking about this morning, so I'm just so happy that you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. So now going back to this analogy, the holes in the wall, Shandi, you've got this great engineering plan and you've got all of these generators lined up to do their work, and they are so lit up to do their work, right? The greatest mortar maker, the greatest bricklayer, the greatest painter, the greatest chef, the greatest musicians, they're all here. They're tuned up. They're excited. They're bringing their energy because we're all getting to the new world. Now you've created this plan, and it's a 10-step plan to do whatever is being done. Well, Dom comes in because Dom is a manifesting generator, not a generator. Generators, you've given the generators these plans, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And they are continuing to do the work in the way that you set up the plan, steps 1 through 10. Now, a manifesting generator, the collection of their electromagnetic fields, is here to come in and make things a little bit more efficient. So they're going to come into that plan, and they are going to, Dom and I have talked about this. It's going to be hard for them to do all 10 steps, but generally, sometimes if they make all 10, right? If they don't, they'll come back and do the other ones again. But the manifesting generators are here to show us the most efficient way of, I mean, really, it takes your engineering plan, Shandi, and makes it a little bit more efficient, evolves it just a little bit. But the manifesting generator is not going to stay and continue that plan, right? The manifesting generator is going to say, oh, we didn't have to have 10 steps. We just had to have 7 steps. And now the generators are going to do the 7 steps. So you see this evolutionary agent, right? A manifesting generator is like a, in my opinion, like this agent of evolution to come in and make things move more smoothly. Okay, so the music is playing, the food smells so good, the manifestors are awake. Now everybody's starting to mingle and go back and forth between the new world and here, and we're all really getting used to things. And now we have our reflector coming down from the hill. And our reflector comes down from the hill, and she comes in and she starts dancing to the music. And then she walks up those stairs and she skips over to the other side and things. And she is just feeling the energy in the space, surprises her and feels so good. Or she comes in the space. She doesn't really like the music. The stairs are a little crooked. Everybody's a little sad. Food's fucking cold. And she's a little disappointed. She's like, okay, well, here we are. But this is when we know as a group, when she is ecstatic and skipping through these stairs, this is when we know we were correct or on purpose. And when I say correct, I don't mean according to anyone's perspective. I mean, according to the design that is here for evolution. And when she is disappointed, this is when we have kind of stopped being our authentic expression and fallen into the program or the energy that is alive that keeps us from being our authentic self. But either way, whether we did it right or not, we're on the other side. Congratulations. We've made it.
Amen.
There's the story. What would you add to that fun story, Richard?
Oh, I love your story. Well, mine's just much more simple because I have to keep things simple for my brain. But I just always, manifestors are here to get things going. Like you said, there's a creative spark. There's some sort of download that happens internally for a manifestor. And there's this creative spark. And when we look at charts, we know we have a manifestor chart whenever we have a motor, one of the 4 possible motors in a chart, if it has direct access to the throat. So we have energetic possibility in the moment to do something. And so they get it going. And then the generators, once manifestors get it going, generators can see if that's something they want to respond to, right? Does what I see externally cause energy to rise up through my life force to connect with whatever's going on and engage in that? And then the projectors have this unique sense of observation. Projectors, because their body is not consumed with the sacral motor, right? It's almost like they don't have this vibrational noise. They have a unique perspective to bring efficiency, to see things almost before they happen. It's just a different observational perspective that they have. And so, yeah, they can look at everything that's happened and be like, you know what, we could save a lot of time here if we'd adjust this or do it this way. And we really need to appreciate our reflectors for that. One of the analogies I use is that if generators, like at an airport, generators are like the planes, right? Big 747s. We got big motors. They're really loud. We take people from point A to point B. And in an airport, we have all these different runways, planes coming and going, circling around. But the generator is just focused on its mission, where it's going. Well, the air traffic control folks, they're the projectors up there. They've got all these windows, they've got the computers, they've got the radar, they know where every plane is, and they can see how to make it all work so we don't crash into each other. And that's what I mean about this different perspective that they bring. So that's where they can make us so much more efficient and healthier. And then, yeah, with the reflectors, we're getting, sometimes I think of the canary in the coal mine phrase. You know, the old miners used to have canaries they'd take into the mine to see if the air quality was good for the workers. And that's really what our reflectors are. They bring this quality of health. How healthy are we in this environment? What are we missing? They're true indicators, beacons of light that share with us how the group is operating. So they too have this very unique energetic presence, as well as their perspective on what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And there is the overview of aura type. Now, aura type is a very deep and robust topic. There is a lot to talk about. And so the funny stories and the top layer view is what we're giving you today, but I definitely want to invite you into our workshop space where you will understand not only the mechanics of aura, but you will understand the way that they move through the world, tips and tricks on how to be that. We'll talk about self-signature and not self-signature. So the way that you experience your aura when you are in alignment with your biology versus out of alignment with your biology. We're going to talk about strategy. We're going to talk about a lot of other things. So I'd love to invite you into these containers with us to learn more and deeper about your type. For now, I wanted to go into the question and answers that we have in some of the designs. You feel that's good?
Sounds
Richard?
great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you guys want to do that? So what we're going to do, Shandi and Dom, is we're just going to look at some of the charts and answer some of the questions. So Shandi, you've not seen human design charts before like this, maybe. I know Dom has. So what I want to invite you to do is when you are looking at these designs, and anyone who's watching, when you are looking, what I'd like you to see if you are new is just to put your eyes on how different every single chart is. And I think that that's a really important thing to start with, to see that individuation is real. That each person, no matter how many, there's 64 activations and 9 centers and all of these things, but every single person's design is different. So when we are talking about these designs and we are teaching about these different mechanics, please know that you must experiment with your design in order for you to understand these mechanics. We may not say something that has come to you in your experiment being you. And so I want to encourage you to trust yourself and to look at how individuated you are, how special you are, how different you are according to other people's designs. And when you see that, I'm getting a little philosophical here, but this is what I do. That is when you see the creator inside of you. And when you see the creator inside of you, it fuels that desire to be that. And so when you are looking at these different charts that we're going to put up on the screen, I just want you to see how different they all are and how you didn't choose your design, neither did they. And so when we bring that into our awareness, this human design becomes a language of love. And so I just want to start it there.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Okay. So we will start with who is here. Let's do Dom first. So Dominique, hi baby. What is your question? Let me get in there and see.
I actually have one question. I think, excuse me, Richard had said this. Can your chart, your thing can change? Can your chart ever change, like your open centers or that? Does that ever change?
Good question. And I think Richard can probably speak to it because he was talking about a transit. So maybe, yeah. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So when we're looking at this natal birth chart, this chart never changes in that sense. This is the imprinting that we were born with. You can sort of think of it like a blueprint. now, like if you think of a commercial building and a blueprint, like you're going to have this piece of paper with all these geometric shapes and structures, and yet until we build the building and it actually has the electricity and it has people working in the building, that's like the life. That's when the building has come to life. So this chart, we actually, it's always being impacted by something, either other people, right? From the moment we're born, we're with our family and so on. There's always going to be planetary transits that move through all the 64 gates continuously. So it's always being impacted by external energy in that sense. But no, the birth chart itself does not change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this is who you be, right? This is
Sister, I don't mean to interrupt, but my chart that you gave me is different than that chart. I don't know if I gave you wrong information on the
all right,
thing.
tell me again.
Mine's 3-5. Oh,
What's your birthday?
April 18th, 1989.
Whoa. What time?
I was born at 7:42 a.m. in Arizona.
Oh, this is somebody else. Okay. My apologies.
No, you're
Ah.
good, sister.
PM or AM, did you say?
7:42 a.m. Yep. In Phoenix, Arizona. Appreciate you so much.
Mm-hmm. That's better. That is you. There you are. I wonder who's, anyway, moving along.
Oh, so, okay, I don't know but like, this is the chart that I have where it shows like this.
What is happening?
Yeah. I don't know if you still have Coach Dom on your paper, in your information. And I
What
could be
was-
wrong, like maybe I don't know my life. Like I don't.
You know who you are, love.
Yes, that's me.
Okay,
Thanks, girl.
welcome. Thank you for bringing that up.
I'm just so happy to be here.
So you had questions about your not self theme. Is that right?
Yeah, so I saw Crystal before I came out here, and we were talking about the charts, and she was like, oh, that's what she said. She's like, if you're feeling some kind of way, like it should be on your chart, and she was looking for it, but she couldn't find it. And so yes, that's what came up. Like, how do I know? You just answered. Let me be quiet. Yep, that's it. Thank you. That's it.
So whenever anybody says, how do I know? I say you don't. It doesn't
Okay.
matter what comes after that. How do I know? You don't. Anytime that you feel yourself saying, well, how do I know? Ask yourself, what do I feel? Because there's something that you're feeling that you're wanting to know about, but let your body tell you the answer to that. I know this from our personal experience with you. So your not self theme is anger and frustration. Frustration when you are either using your life force energy for something that it is not lit up for, or trying to find energy in your body to do something that you have no energy in your body to do. This is what causes resistance and brings your frustration.
Okay.
Is there a more concise way that you would say that, Richard?
No, I think you described that perfectly. When we have this configuration here, we do have a manifesting channel. So we have the ego center connected from gate 21 to gate 45, the channel of the money line, design of a materialist. This is the application of resources for the tribe. Now, down below, we have the sacral center connected to the root center through the channel of mutation, a design that initiates and fluctuates.
Okay.
So there can be a real tendency to this manifesting capability. You have energy available to do something in the moment, anytime. Yet it's through the sacral center that we have your inner authority. So this mechanism, which has the ability to respond with energy, again, either verbally, like a or or also just a physical rising of energy, almost like I want to get up out of my chair. So out of response, this sacral motor can come alive in that sense. And so this is what can really guide you moment to moment. Now, the sacral motor is a moment to moment mechanism. So just developing this felt sense of the sacral center, which is basically down here, kind of around the navel. So it's kind of, some people may refer to it like follow your gut. It's kind of in that area, but it can be sensed as this up. I'm getting out of my chair. This is inner authority. So even though this ego center has this ability to say and do whatever it wishes, it's going to be most effectively guided by the response mechanism of the sacral center.
Yes. Thank you, Richard. Thank you. I've been feeling that like a lot down there, but I didn't understand it. And you just, thank you. Makes sense. This makes so amazing sense. I'm so happy.
So as MGs, which I am as well, we do have this tremendous capacity to do things. Not only do you have the life force energy of the sacral, but you have this powerful ego to manifest. And so we often get a lot of irons in the fire, kind of like spinning a lot of different plates. I think one of the helpful things for manifesting generators is for us to realize that it is important that we express our energy every day. It's just vitally important to our health. But at the same time, to realize that when we're facing crossroads and decisions, sometimes multitasking too many things isn't always helpful. Just because we have the energy to do it doesn't mean we actually should do it in that sense. But it's this response mechanism that carries your internal GPS. This life force energy can guide you as well as this manifesting capability. So that really is I think really every chart has sort of a energetic dilemma, we might say, because we are a duality, we are a yin and yang, and we always look at juxtapositions. There's this side of the chart, that side of the chart. We carry this theme of yin and yang throughout every layer of the human design chart. And for manifesting generators, that is the dilemma, this manifesting capability, which wants to initiate up against the sacral life force energy that wants to respond. And that becomes part of aligning with the natural, authentic flow, that the GPS built into your inner authority can actually guide the manifesting capability only through response.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. That was really well received. Thank you. Said amazing.
Beautiful.
Thank you both. I feel so happy.
And now we'll go over to Shandi.
Let's go.
Shandi, a projector, beautiful 6'2" projector. Do you have any thoughts or questions? I'd love to hear what's alive in you.
I've just been trying to take everything in that you guys are saying. All the different words on the side, just because I don't know what I'm really looking at right now. Doesn't make sense. But the things that stick out to me are the stages of life. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a little bit about what Richard was talking about these cycles and transits that happen. You are never not who you are, but there are certain points in your life which the planets are doing something that overlay your chart and impact you in a greater way or in a great way, in some kind of way, your storyline. For instance, your first Saturn return, what this means is when Saturn, the moment you were born, Saturn was here and it has come all the way back around and Saturn is here again. And so when Saturn arrives here again, it brings some themes, and these themes are annotated by, maybe I'm getting a little bit deep here, but your chart then gets overlaid with these themes. So this is who Shandi is. And at about 30 years, you have had this experience at about 30 years old that it was a powerful experience for you. This chart was overlaid onto your chart, if you will. You had access to experiences or frequencies that were here to teach you things. The Saturn return is about, this is part of that tripartite life. This is anywhere where you are in your sixth line. This is the time where you went onto the roof. This is the time where you were programmed in the geometry to shift something within you. And the shifting, chances are, was more of an introversion and a moving away from the things that you had always done in those first 30 years to be more objective and to take more of an observational view. Now, these cycles of life, these are impactful moments that are here to affect or change your geometry, your trajectory. Richard is a brilliant astrologist and can probably put more language to this than I do. So take it away.
Yeah, so Saturn as a planet, you know, for thousands of years, Saturn was the farthest planet that humans could see with their eyes. It wasn't until 1781, with the advent of the telescope, that we were able to observe more planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So throughout astrology, thousands of years, the planet Saturn represented structure. In that sense, it held our solar system planetary structure together. So when we think of Saturn, we think of structure, stability, also discipline. Saturn's often called the taskmaster. He's also called Father Time. So it really brings this structural element to our lives. So when we talk about the Saturn return, which is a pretty consistent orbit, it's around 28 and a half years. It varies very slightly. It's pretty consistent. That period of life between 28 and 30 years old, most of us tend to go through some sort of structural change in our life. You know, we're leaving our 20s. It kind of just makes sense, right? We're in our 20s. We're sort of invincible. We're strong. We're young. We're healthy. The sky's the limit. There's lots of optimism. But then we generally transition into a more mature phase. So around that time period, people often maybe get married or have children, or they take on a career. There tends to be some addition of a structural change at the Saturn return. And the idea, again, is that it brings this development of maturity through time, which is so much of what Saturn is about in our charts.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you experiment? Like, I know you guys mentioned like experiment with your human design. How do you do that?
So as a projector type, if we talked about the role, this idea that you have some sort of innate ability to guide others, right? And it's often through your sensory body awareness of bringing to the rest of us some sort of improvement, some sort of efficiency. Okay, so the experiment for projectors is to be observing, not just waiting, not like just sitting on the couch until the phone rings and someone invites you for something. I mean, we're still living life, right? We still have to typically earn money. We have to go to the grocery store. We have to take care of our children. So it's not like we're just sitting in a room alone, waiting for the electric company call to tell us to pay our electric bill. What's happening is we're living lives as a projector with this keen sense of observation, waiting to be recognized for that. For all of the types, there is an element of this waiting as part of our strategies, right? If we're a reflector, we recommend they wait an entire lunar cycle for decision making. For projectors, we're talking about waiting for recognition and invitation. For generators and manifesting generators, we're waiting to respond. And even for manifestors, even though they have this energetic ability to initiate on their own, they're still waiting for the creative spark, for the energetic impulse. So what I like to think about is that all four types have an element of waiting. And what we're waiting for is the synchronistic timing to play our song. It's kind of like we're all in a symphony. We all have our instrument and we're waiting for the conductor to say, now's your chance. Now's your turn. Here's your solo. And so this is the idea of experimenting for a projector, is we often say, let our aura do their talking. You're just waiting for your aura to almost, in the sense, have someone come invite you to be recognized for what you can offer us to improve whatever the situation is. Now, in your chart here, we see that you have the solar plexus defined on the right, which is indicating that you have an internal chemistry that is your awareness center through time. So in other words, emotionally defined people, we are constantly gaining moment to moment every day emotional intelligence. And that's why we suggest not acting too soon, not to, this idea of spontaneity in the moment. If we act too soon, we're missing out on a whole lot of more information that we're going to get, even by tonight or by tomorrow. So this awareness quality that you have is over time. So through patience and honoring your feelings and just seeing what they have to share with you, that's when there can be this opportunity to achieve clarity. And the way it works in our body is that clarity is this relaxed state. So whenever we're in the higher end, we're a little more excitable and just a higher degree of vibrational quality. We're very optimistic and so forth. And then at the low end, we have more of an uncomfortable feeling physically. It's like maybe a nervousness or just a bad mood. And we can use all different kinds of words to describe these elements of where we are in our wave. But this main point is that we can learn to sense when we feel physical clarity. You know, if you've had those times where you've waited and you've had a decision to make, eventually after sleeping on it enough nights, there just becomes like this physical resoluteness. Like, you know, I'm clear. I have waited. I have seen this from every angle, and I'm just clear now. And I'm not attached to the outcome anymore because I'm simply clear now that this is the correct decision for me. Yeah. So as a projector, not only are for yourself would be experimenting with waiting to see who recognizes you, and whatever way that feels like however you sense appreciation and recognition. And then there could be the invitation. But again, it does require your patience because not every invitation is correct. And that, again, every chart has a little bit of a dilemma, if you will, the yin and the yang aspects. And the dilemma here is simply that because projectors love to be invited and share this wealth of knowledge that they bring to the table, there can be a tendency to want to take every invitation. You know, we're so happy to get an invitation. They're like, oh yeah, here's an invitation, I'm on it. But yet not every one of those is going to be correct. And it's through waiting, again, this idea of sleeping on something for a while to decide, yeah, that was a right, you know, this physical felt sense, like I really feel appreciated and I feel recognized. And I think what can be very helpful for projectors as they begin this experiment is to develop first and foremost self-appreciation. You know, when we speak archetypally across humanity in history, projectors have been oftentimes, because they're trying to keep up with generators in school, right? And we have a structured, strategic school system. We all have to learn the same thing. Everybody's supposed to do everything the same, right? Tribal communities like things to be consistent. And so for projectors, there's often been the sense of not being recognized, trying to keep up with generators in whatever the task at hand was. And so in a sense, projectors as a whole, archetypally, have kind of been marginalized. I mean, really, projectors, because they're here to guide, we need to elevate our projectors, give them the pedestal so that they can have the vision and the observation so that we can come to them and get their much needed knowledge. But I say all that just to emphasize how important and helpful learning the channels in the chart and the definition, which are our unique, inherent, innate born gifts and talents, having self-appreciation for that, we can learn what we're being recognized for.
Brilliant.
I have a quick question. My solar plexus is open. How does that differ from your guys's that has a color?
That's a brilliant question.
Thank you.
Brilliant question. And we're going to dive way deeper into strategy and authority in our next workshop, but to cover,
thank you.
Basically, remember when we were talking in our last session about nervous system dysregulation and about what happens when you feel other people's emotions inside of your body and how sometimes you take action on those feelings that you feel in your body, but that you notice that when you don't take action, you become wise about what that other person was feeling. And remember that mudra that we did? Remember this mudra that helped you remember that? Remember? Yep, this is your mudra, baby. That's the difference.
Mhm. Thank you. Oh man, excuse me. I'm just like, we were just like talking about you. So when I came to visit her, I was talking about you, and where she was like, I need to see Brandy. And then we've talked about you a few times since I've been here. She's like, man, we're gonna see Brandy. And then literally last night, I saw this on Facebook, and I was like, we're gonna see Brandy. So like, the energy is just flowing through me right now because of how everything's aligned. So I'm just like, please excuse me.
You don't need, you are beautiful. And I really appreciate you being here. And I love your energy and your questions and the life that pours out of you. You know, I love you, sis.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're gonna, let me show you just a couple. We just have a few more minutes, and I just want to show you a couple more charts. Let's get to our very first entry. This is Ron Armstrong. And Ron, we're just going to do a couple of these, but Ron asks, let's see, to continue my deepening my awareness of my open centers and my strengths via my channels. Ron is a 6'2" projector. And I don't know, Shandi, if you noticed, but he's a 6'2" projector that has the same, let's see, design as you. Yeah. Cross of the Spirit. We'll go into that later, but Ron, a beautiful role model projector. What I see when I see this design is the power in these open centers, the power of awareness and the sensitivity that lives in these open centers. And Ron being able to be the Jedi of these open centers, being able to stay still and sovereign while this energy moves through you. And then these two completely polar parts of you, this brilliant mind, able to understand and bring logic into spaces, and then this tribal definition that is able to meet and be with the tribe. And so what I see is, you know, your authority is this tribal emotional definition, and I can see how you're staying aware and sensitive and present to these open centers is going to, and the feelings of these open centers is going to give you deeper access to your emotional wave when you realize what is yours and what is not.
Yeah, for sure, Brandy. Really, really, really liked all that. Yeah, so here we are again with this emotional authority. And you mentioned the channel of synthesis, 19 to the 49. The design of being sensitive. This is part of our tribal circuitry, as you said. So here we're thinking about supporting, how we support our tribe and how we get supported back. And so Ron has this ability to help us begin the bond, right? As we connect with each other. What do you need? What do I need? What are the principles that we share? How do we court each other to see if we can build a bond together? And has his son in gate 55, the gate of the spirit, the emotional spirit. So this idea that he can bring the emotional spirit into the bonding of our communities.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you mentioned, the juxtaposition we'd see at the top of the chart, this logical circuitry of, it's called the channel of logic. And so there is a mental capability to be very orderly, to really recognize logical, clear patterns. But that's very interesting, considering the rest of the chart is within the emotional chemistry of the wave, always changing, right? So up and down the wave, it's, you know, emotional chemistry is boy, it's just the passion and the desire and all the beautiful things that come from our relationships and our bonding. It's not always logical.
Yeah.
When we think about our feelings, they don't it's again, this is the left side and the right side of the chart. We're talking about the spleen on the left and the solar plexus on the right. They have very different points of view. But with the solar plexus, we're always thinking about relationships, cycles, beginnings, middles, and ends, all leaning into the unknown. The solar plexus is very brave, where the spleen on the left is very conservative, right? It's here to keep us alive, and it has thousands of years of genetic coding to tell us when we're a child and we touch a hot stove, we know to pull our hand away. So it's very cool and logical and conservative. Whereas the solar plexus, this is taking us into the future. What will the next relationship bring me? What will the next experience bring me? And so it has a much more brave and leaning into the unknown, leaning into possible friction and conflict in the hopes that we will emerge out the other side with something valuable that we've learned from that.
Mhm.
So we have two very different perspectives happening in Ron's chart here. And so by following strategy and authority, which is this waiting, becoming in touch with this physical felt sense of what's clarity or not. For emotional beings, it's not like we may ever have what we consider to be 1,000% certainty and clarity from our emotional wave, but we definitely develop like a spectrum, a graph. And so we can start to sense where we're pretty clear. Like I'm more clear today than I was yesterday or a week ago. And that's where I was saying how we have this innate capability to gain emotional intelligence over time. So through doing that in this chart and waiting for that invitation, those invitations will then offer him to bring this brilliant, logical mind of how we can improve whatever we're working on in the tribe.
Right. But it's got to be in that order, huh? Because this brilliant mind could take charge.
Mm-hmm.
And not allow, based on the patterns that it recognizes, not allow for the emotionality and the needs of the tribe to weigh or inform these decisions at all. And so, Ron, kind of like I said, allow your body to move into the places, spaces, and relationships that are for you, and then let your mind bring in what needs to be brought, not the other way around.
Yeah, it's all about that timing aspect, waiting for correct timing, correct people, the correct place, and the correct environment,
Right.
the synchronicity. We've all had those experiences in life where some days are just like these moments where it felt like everything was just kind of divinely orchestrated, and we're playing our solo from our instrument and shining on stage. We're waiting for those moments, and this is why type and strategy are so helpful, because they give us a physical energetic marker to recognize when our timing is correct.
That's right. Oh, well, that feels really good. And I am feeling really excited about the future of these gatherings. We have more charts to review. And maybe Richard and I will do that and have them for you later. I will let you know. But if not, we will pick back up on these chart readings for everyone who has submitted their chart for a free mini reading. We will pick back up next week on the 21st when we do our next conversation. And then on the 22nd, we will have the generator workshop where we are going to be talking about the generator aura. And that will be on the 22nd of June at 10 a.m. And then the 23rd, Chelsea and Brandy and myself, Chelsea and Brandy, third person, huh? Chelsea and myself are going to talk about presence. So we are going to, where Richard and I are talking about the experiment, Chelsea and I are going to be talking about embodiment tools. And so we're going to be talking about how presence is the first step in experimenting. And offering some tools in order to leave the past there and the future there and come present into the feelings and sensory organs of your bodies. And that'll be on the 23rd of June. And then on the 29th of June, we have our manifesting generator workshop for all the manifesting generators. This is going to be a celebration of your aura, and come and learn about your aura type and how it may be different than the generator aura type and how it's the same. And then in July, we will also have workshops that we will post and have available for you, but I just wanted to let you know what was coming up. Thank you, Shandi and Dom and Katharina all for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Your energy makes it all worthwhile.
Thank you so much, guys. I really, really, really appreciate this. So
Mhm.
I'm just so honored to have like been here with you guys. Thank you for what you guys bring to the table, what flows through you. It's like such a blessing to light that is like keep shining, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, love.
Thank you so much. Yeah. What a
Richard.
pleasure to be here today.